After having a full day to really let it all sink in, looking back at the absolute carnage from Friday, October 10th, and just trying to piece together the sequence of events, it's clear there are a multitude of perspectives on what exactly transpired. This was, without a doubt, a unicorn event, a black swan that defied all conventional market wisdom. I've been in the crypto space for years, and I've never witnessed anything of this magnitude. The sheer volume of liquidations we saw, coupled with the explosion of online chatter from people claiming this was a sophisticated scam, that it was fraud in its most blatant form, is overwhelming. The theories are running wild. Insiders with prior knowledge trading against the market, orchestrated manipulation to trigger a cascade of liquidations, and everyday traders like you and me getting wiped out in the process. I want to be upfront with you all, I get it. I understand the anger, the confusion, and the feeling of betrayal. I'm telling you this because I was one of the casualties. I lost what was essentially my entire portfolio dedicated to leverage trading. Now, before anyone gets the wrong idea, this wasn't my entire cryptocurrency portfolio. A core tenet of my investment philosophy has always been diversification. The majority of my holdings are in assets I own outright, stored securely across various platforms. I've always preached the importance of not putting all your eggs in one basket, especially when it comes to something as volatile as leverage trading. If you're cross-leverage trading on a single platform where you also hold your long-term assets, you're setting yourself up for potential disaster. In a black swan event like this, the platform can and will dig into your other positions to cover your losses, liquidating them until there's nothing left. Or even worse, you could end up owing them money. I've always prided myself on being a safe and methodical trader. I've always been a staunch advocate for using stop losses on every single trade. But this was a situation where those safety nets were utterly useless. It didn't matter if you had a stop loss in place. The market moved with such ferocious speed that it broke through those levels as if they weren't even there. You lost everything anyway. So while I thought I was protected, while I believed my risk management strategies were robust enough to withstand any storm, I was wrong. I wasn't as protected as I thought, because when the price moves too fast, there's no liquidity to fill your orders at your desired prices. Your stop-loss order becomes a ghost, a request that can't be fulfilled in a market that's in freefall. Instead, you get filled at the earliest possible convenience for the exchange, which often means at a price significantly worse than your stop-loss, and they can still claw back the difference from the rest of your account. You might have said, "Hey, I want out at this specific price," but in the chaos of a flash crash, that price effectively ceases to exist. In this piece, I'm going to break down exactly how I lost my entire leverage trading portfolio and how I'm now faced with the daunting task of starting from scratch in that arena. I know there are probably people in the comments section and across the internet who are reveling in this, saying, "Haha, I told you so. Leverage trading always ends in tears." And to be honest, an event of this magnitude shouldn't have happened in a fair and transparent market. But we'll delve into the potential explanations, both the rational and the unexplainable. So if you could, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell for more content like this. Also, be sure to check out the links in the description below. It really does help support the channel. And if you're interested in learning more about the platform I use for leverage trading, BTCC, you'll find a link there as well. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Rob, why on earth are you talking about leverage trading platforms after just telling us you lost your entire portfolio? It's a fair question. The truth is, I started this particular account with a modest $500, and I'm currently back up to around $800. So while I took a massive hit, I'm still technically in the positive on my initial investment. The journey back is going to be a long one, especially considering I had built that account up to $6,000 before it was all liquidated, leaving me with just a tiny fraction to rebuild with. I'll explain later why I was left with anything at all. Again, I appreciate your support. Hit the like button, subscribe, and check out my link for BTCC. It's at the top of the description. If you want to learn some techniques for managing risk in leverage trading and how to potentially survive an event like this instead of panicking or ending up in debt to an exchange, then this is for you. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of what happened. For those who aren't fully aware, on October 10th, the cryptocurrency market experienced a cataclysmic liquidation event. We're talking about an estimated $16 billion in long liquidations. That number is almost incomprehensible. It's a figure that is both horrifying and indicative of a deeply flawed system. To put it into perspective, we've seen billion-dollar, even $2 billion liquidation events in the past. But to witness $16 billion in long positions wiped out in a single day is nothing short of absolute chaos. It's utterly insane. And when you look at the price levels that were hit, it's understandable why so many were caught off guard. I, for one, had set my liquidation prices at levels I thought were impossible to reach. I thought to myself, there is no conceivable way the market will ever drop to these prices. In my mind, a drop of that magnitude would signal the definitive start of a bear market. But that's the kicker, we're not in a bear market. We're still very much in a bull market, yet we experienced a bear market-level crash in the span of a few hours. That's what's so jarring. To see prices plummet to such depths, knowing that there's still a significant amount of buying sentiment in the market, is what really grinds my gears. Why the sudden, violent drop? If we take a look at the current state of the market on CoinMarketCap, it's sitting at a staggering $3.94 trillion market cap, even after the bloodbath we witnessed on the 10th. Many assets have seen a significant recovery. BNB, for example, is up by 16.33% today and 12% over the last 7 days, while many other cryptocurrencies are still down by 7%, 8%, 12%, even 15%. Bitcoin has clawed its way back up to $115,000, and Ethereum is hovering around $4,200. BNB is even approaching a new all-time high. But then you have other assets that are still struggling to recover. XRP, for instance, is up by 10% or 11%, but it's still languishing at $2.63, a far cry from the $2.80 or even $3 level it was at before the crash. But the most egregious example of what transpired has to be Sway. What happened with Sway was, in my opinion, one of the most blatant displays of market manipulation I have ever seen. And the price charts on many platforms don't even show the true extent of the crash. If I pull up my BTCC account, which uses TradingView, you can see the unfiltered data. Let me navigate to the markets, select BTC, and then search for Sway. Now, look at this. The lowest price this asset reached during that period was a mind-boggling 58 cents. This is an asset that was trading at $3.45. Let that sink in for a moment. From over $3 to 58 cents. This is a drop so severe you wouldn't even expect to see it in the depths of a bear market. Typically in a bear market, you might see a 70% drop, and even that is considered extreme. To see an asset go from $3 down to 58 cents in a matter of hours has to be clear, undeniable manipulation. There's a significant amount of money moving behind the scenes, pulling strings that we can't see. I'm usually one to advocate for a more measured approach, to say that this is just the nature of cryptocurrency. You have sell-offs driven by news, and those sell-offs trigger liquidations. But this was far more than that. This wasn't just a simple case of sell-offs and liquidations. Even if you had a panic-induced 20% drop, you wouldn't see this level of liquidations. Do I think that fear played a role, that a sell-off created panic, which in turn triggered more liquidations, creating a domino effect? That's certainly a possibility. This is what's known as a liquidation cascade or a liquidation train. I knew we were due for a liquidation train at some point, but I never in my wildest nightmares imagined that a popular, top-tier cryptocurrency like Sway would plummet from over $3 to 58 cents. And to add insult to injury, the price didn't even stay at that 58-cent level or anywhere near it. As of right now, it's back up to $2.85. Days after a cataclysmic crash, it has almost fully recovered. That doesn't sit right with me. It screams of manipulation. While you can rationalize the drop in Bitcoin from $120,000 down to $105,000 as a significant but plausible market correction, the drop in Sway is on another level entirely. Even a drop to $80,000 for Bitcoin wouldn't be as statistically significant as what we saw with Sway. We're talking about a top-tier cryptocurrency that experienced a drop of an almost unbelievable magnitude. I don't even know what the exact percentage is, but it's astronomical. Now let's talk about my own positions. I had 10 different positions open in my account, and I want to explain why some people's stop losses, including my own, failed to trigger. As many of you know, I am a huge proponent of stop losses. You can see in my current open positions, where I'm up 40% and 61%, that I have stop losses in place. I am always comfortable with losing the entire amount I've put into a trade. That's the cornerstone of my leverage trading strategy, and it's a strategy that has been consistently profitable for me. I had a few positions that, under normal circumstances, should have been safe from liquidation. For example, my OKB position. I had bought in at around $90, and the price had soared to over $250. I was up thousands of dollars on that single position with 3x leverage, meaning it would have to drop by 33% from my entry price for me to be liquidated. Given my entry point, this was highly unlikely. Similarly, my ADA position was also in a very strong position and shouldn't have been at risk of liquidation. However, these positions were force liquidated because of the failure of the stop losses on my other trades. Let me explain how this works. When you set a stop loss, you're essentially placing a limit order to sell at a specific price. When the market reaches that price, your order is executed. But, and this is the crucial part, if the market never sees that price, if it gaps down so quickly that your price is skipped over, your order is not filled. Instead, the exchange will sell at the earliest possible opportunity, at whatever price it can find. This often means you end up owing more than what you had initially put into the trade. To cover this deficit, and this is where it gets particularly brutal, some exchanges will simply leave you with a negative balance. However, in my case, since I had other open, profitable positions in my account, the exchange pulled from those positions. They were force liquidated to cover the extra losses from the trades where the stop losses had failed. So let's say a position was trading at $1, and I had my stop loss set at 75 cents, which would have meant losing the entirety of what I had invested in that particular trade. What happened was the price dropped to, say, 78 cents, and then in the blink of an eye, it plummeted to 40 cents. My stop loss at 75 cents was never triggered. Instead, my position was eventually filled at, let's say, 60 cents. This means I had accepted a loss that was significantly larger than my initial investment. To cover this difference, the exchange had to liquidate my profitable positions. This is why even my seemingly safe positions, the ones that had no chance of being liquidated on their own, were wiped out. It didn't matter that I was using isolated leverage on those positions, which in theory should only put the capital in that specific trade at risk. The exchange still had to cover the losses from the other trades, and so they force liquidated my profitable positions. This is where the real danger lies, and it's a brutal lesson in the mechanics of leverage trading. The forced liquidations create a vicious cycle. One liquidation triggers another, which triggers another, creating a liquidation train that decimates the market until it runs out of liquidation spots to hit. This is why leverage trading in such a speculative market is so incredibly difficult and fraught with risk. But despite what happened, I'm not deterred. I'm not walking away from leverage trading. I jumped right back in, even though my account went from $6,000 down to a meager $300. And frankly, I'm grateful I was left with even that much. The exchange pulled from positions that, despite the massive market drop, were still up thousands of dollars. There are people out there who lost millions of dollars in this event. People who had their entire trading accounts wiped out because of the cascading effect of these forced liquidations. This experience has only reinforced my belief in the importance of compartmentalizing my investments. I like leverage trading, and I will continue to do it, but I will never combine it with my long-term holdings. People ask me all the time, Rob, why don't you leverage trade on the same platforms where you hold the bulk of your crypto? For example, you can do futures trading on Coinbase, so why not do it there? Or on other popular platforms that offer leverage trading. My answer is always the same. I make it a point to separate my different investment strategies. I have my long-term, forever, positions held on one set of platforms and my leverage trading on a completely different platform. If you are not utilizing multiple platforms to segregate your trading activities, you need to change your strategy immediately. Because an event like this can and will happen again. And if you're only using one platform for both your long-term holdings and your leverage trading, especially with cross-leverage, the exchange will not hesitate to pull from your profitable long-term positions to cover your leveraged losses. You will face a forced liquidation, not just a regular one. If you think, "Oh, I can only lose the money I've invested in this particular trade," you are sorely mistaken. The losses can and will trickle over to the other positive positions in your account. I am so incredibly grateful that I have always kept my investments separated, that I own a significant amount of crypto outright, and that I can still engage in leverage trading without risking my core holdings. I am not a fan of what happened. I have never seen anything like it in my years in this space, and there are still many aspects of it that remain unexplainable. But I am still a firm believer in the potential of leverage trading. When done correctly, with a sound risk management strategy, it allows you to make a significant amount of money with a relatively small amount of capital. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. And please, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I just had to get this video out there to share my experience and hopefully provide some insight into what was a truly insane and unprecedented event in the history of cryptocurrency. We'll probably be doing a live stream around this time to discuss this further, and I'll be posting another video later on, so hopefully you'll have a chance to tune into that as well. This has been a crazy, humbling, and ultimately educational experience. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you.